Welcome to Game of Roses. I'm Chad Colchin, aka Bachelor Clues. Obviously, there has been massive fallout, massive reaction by the fourth audience to everything going on with Jenn Tran's finale, post-finale, all the receipts being shown by Devin Strader, the cryptic posts by Maria that she's got some tea to spill. And obviously, everybody around the nation has been reacting to all of this. So I thought today, I got a bunch of DMs about this, that Viall Files, Nick Viall's reaction to this was something that I had to see. I have not seen this yet. I'm going to watch it right now. This is the last about 28 minutes of his Viall Files that came out, I believe, today or yesterday. And I'm going to watch it here and see what he has to say. So let's take a look. Here we go.
That was fun. Peter Schrager, thanks for coming. Big fan.
Fun.
It was so much fun. All right, finally, let's get to the Bachelorette. What the fuck were the people who make this show thinking?
Couldn't agree more with Viall there. It was very confusing, to say the least, that the creative decision was made to play her footage of the proposal after they did those brutal hot seats. Had they played it before, none of this would even be an issue, but they didn't.
They did Jenn dirty.
All
Agreed.
they care about was showing, we let our Bachelorette propose. That's all they cared about showing.
That's wrong. They cared about making Jenn cry. If all they cared about was showing it, they would have shown it in the proper order. It was the real damage they did was when they showed it, making that decision to essentially let her re-experience all of the bad emotions, talking to Devin, and then say, and now we've got to show the proposal. It wasn't that they cared about that. They cared about making her cry.
They didn't care about protecting Jenn.
How can you imagine, given what Devin did, and we'll get into how bizarre his behavior was, how unnecessary, how cruel seemingly his behavior was, and he's still not the biggest villain of the night, right? Do we
the
agree?
producers are. Yeah.
He's neck and neck, but yeah.
I agree with that 100%. And he's a villain in terms of the show, but you have to remember, Devin played a perfect season. I don't think we've ever seen a player do that. You could maybe argue Hannah and Sluss. A perfect season. It was postseason where he made his drastic error that turned him into one of the worst villains we've ever seen.
Yes.
You know, there's hundreds of producers who work on the show. It's my understanding there's a lot of people
Hundreds of producers work on the show? I don't know about that.
who work for that show are mortified this morning.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, please. Are they?
Wait, mortified about what? That people didn't receive the episode well?
I would say they're afraid for losing their jobs potentially, because whoever this decision was made by to play that portion of the proposal after those hot seats, somebody must answer for this. I don't know who it's going to be, because I don't know who made the decision, especially in light of the LA Times article that came out where you had two of the higher up producers, Bennett Gravener and I forget who the other one was, essentially saying, we have the backs of all of our leads and will from here on out. And clearly they didn't.
Yeah,
Because again, a lot of the people who work on the show, like, they don't make these decisions after the final rose. This is like a higher up decision. It's like one or two people make
Yes.
these decisions.
I guess. I'm just pissed at, like,
I'm not trying to defend. This is more like there's I don't know, if I did something, right, as people who work for this company, and I went and made an executive decision, but like, we're going to do it this way, right? And as a result of my decision, someone was hurt and I embarrassed someone, and people were like, oh, everyone at NV Media or the Viall Files, like, how could you? You would be like, wouldn't you feel a certain way about it, right? Wouldn't you be kind of mortified if you're like, yeah, it wasn't my fucking call. That's what I'm saying. I think there's a lot of that going on.
Sure, but I think there's also, like, a lot of people who could have been like, I don't want to be involved in this. Jesse Palmer.
It seemed like there was
Could he not have been like, hey, I don't feel comfortable
Then he shouldn't have done it. You're on live TV. Your producers and the people who are the higher ups can tell you, if you're Jesse Palmer, to do whatever they're saying to do. That's fine. But he makes the final call. And maybe that would have lost him his job. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have. But Jesse Palmer's put in an interesting situation. He is forced in these moments to accept full Dark Lordship, to say, I'm going to put Jenn Tran, our first Asian Bachelorette, just through a horrible emotional trauma right now. And maybe he wants to do it. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't care at all. I don't know where he lands emotionally on that spectrum, but he did it. That's the bottom line. He did do that. We saw him do it.
sitting here and watching her sob as we show this like beautiful engagement.
I thought they were doing that too, because they were like, we're not going to show it. We're not going to
Right.
show it. And then I was like, okay, this is kind of, I see it. That makes sense. And then he was like, well, can we show it? And Jen's like,
literally
do I have a
silence
choice?
Have
in
a
the room. He's
choice.
like, so let's watch it. And everyone's like, I don't think we
Even her,
should.
she's like,
I think Natalie's right. I think whoever the producer was, it was their big idea to tell Jenn that she should be the one to propose to Devin as like this big first time moment. It's never happened. Every season they want to have a like, this has never happened. So one of the people in charge, I'm guessing, went to Jenn during the finale and was like, you should propose to Devin. Also, by the way, like, why do they, this is not a criticism for Jenn, but you're not picking yourself just because you propose to someone else. That doesn't make
I will say, whoever came up with that idea, whether it was Jenn or a producer or some combination, it was a brilliant idea. And that, for me, it was the most important thing that happened this season. The breakup is like meaningless. Every couple breaks up off Bachelor, statistically speaking. Who cares? It was the Bachelorette proposing to her ring winner for the first time. That's what this season should have been remembered for, in my opinion, in terms of play. Obviously, the first Asian Bachelorette as well, first Asian lead. But now it will be remembered, I think, for the producers destroying their lead, which should give no incoming leads confidence about how they're going to be treated, including Grant.
Jen kept saying, I'm choosing me. It's like, no, what?
well, I can see that part.
I don't know. It did seem like a reach. But anyways, I don't even think that was Jen's idea. I think that was something that was fed to her. I think it was an idea given to her. I think she went along with it. She played ball. And then the relationship didn't work out. And then at the finale, going into the finale, whoever's idea that was cared more about that moment and getting credit for that moment and having that moment still have its moment. And they didn't give a fuck about their Bachelorette or their feelings or the fact that the first or maybe arguably the second time ever, one of their Bachelorettes showed up to AFR as a single woman. And
I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if it's like they had to show that moment. I think they were trying to play it for maximum emotional torture. I think the producers, at least whoever made this decision, is still operating under the old school premise, and I'm talking old school like first few seasons of this, under the premise that people crying, people in emotional duress is, in quotes, good TV. It's just not. That's not what we want to see. Yes, we like seeing the leads and the other players be put in these positions that are hard to make a decision. And, I love two people. That's what we like. Make that decision. You're going to have to crush somebody, and we'll get that. We'll get our tears that way. Seeing the lead be crushed by the producers is hard to watch, because then it's like, why am I watching this show? We talk a lot on Game of Roses about the nature of being complicit. That in our fandom of this show, we are in some ways rewarding this bad behavior of the producers. And it had started to turn a corner with Charity Lawson's season, I felt like. Season 20 was great. This was the first season post Mike Fleiss, the creator, being ousted. Then you had Grazia Days season coming after that. That was a great season. We had Golden Bachelor. Obviously, it ended a golden divorce, but prior to that, it was a great season, almost a perfect season. I thought they were back on track here, and they just ain't. They way off the tracks now.
And that can be very, embarrassing. It can be, it's not embarrassing for Jenn, to be clear, but it can feel embarrassing. You have a lot of pressure. You compare yourself to the past leads. You want to have a love story. It's a terrible position that Jenn was put in. And the producers or producer or whoever made that decision, give a fuck. And I don't fault Jesse. I think Jesse's in a really tough spot. Jesse, he's also like calling college games. Jesse literally shows up for a job. He shows up. He's like, what do you want me to say? What should I do? It's a telefucking prompter. He's reading it.
But part of that job is to at least convey that you are an emotional support system for the leads and sometimes the players. He showed up and he was playing golf with all the final three guys. He showed up to have that weird conversation with Devin Strader in the bar by themselves where Devin was drinking alone. It's not a regular job. It's not a regular hosting job. You have to convey that you care about these people. And in that moment, when he's like, Jenn, do you care if we roll this footage back? And she's like, do I have a choice? And he's like, let's play it. He doesn't care about her. That's very clear. And that's why we said in our recap, that was the moment where he became a true Dark Lord, ascended to the Dark Throne. He is visiting suffering upon this lead who should be nothing but celebrated and supported in this season, and she wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, could he have stepped up? Sure, but I think the blame goes way more on whose ever idea this was in the moment. Well, also, was it live? Was it not live? Was it live?
I was
Yeah.
confused. It was
thought
live.
so.
Yeah,
It was
live.
actual live. It
Because
was.
Jen and Demi were there, and they were with us.
Was it actually
Sure.
live, or was it live to tape?
I was confused too. So he
It was live.
says like live. They mention it's live in the episode.
It was live with like a 7-second delay.
Interesting.
Let me ask.
Because we were with Demi and Jen, 2 girls from Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, during the day recording our episode, and then we were also with them at night at their premiere event. So I'm like, when
Mhm.
did they have and they were there. So I'm like,
Oh.
when did they? Maybe they were there for 4 seconds and left. I don't know. But it is also absolutely insane to me that they didn't follow what they do every single year. Show the ending and then bring out your Bachelorette.
That's the thing. It was so
It
unnecessary.
was kind of tone
Mhm.
deaf. Yeah.
It was unbelievably unnecessary. They, like Natalie said, just show it like you do every season.
every season.
Play your episode. The 2 guys meet the families. Blah blah blah. Final date. I'm
Everyone
not sure.
cheers. We're all happy.
We're,
Jen comes out.
Awkward breakup with your runner-up. Yada yada. Bring out the person. Jen proposes. What a moment.
You have a point. Yeah.
Cut to AFR. And Jesse goes, "What a beautiful proposal. First time ever
But
in
what
Bachelor
went
history."
wrong?
Yeah, but but we have some bad news. Unfortunately, it's time to bring out your.
I 100% agree with what Viall is saying here. This is exactly how it should have been done. And like they're saying, the decision to air it when they aired it is the real mistake here. And it requires somebody thinking out of the norm. The norm is to air it in chronological order. You kind of wrap up the main document of the actual show. Then you go to the after the final rose for all the stuff he's talking about here. Someone had to think to themselves, no, we should air it after the hot seats to get maximum torture. And that is the thing I think that the audience is really pissed about. I mean, I've had multiple DMs of people saying they're never going to watch the show again.
Bachelorette, and they could however they want to do it. Like, fine, all right. There was a happy moment. We all know this is not like this was happened months ago. Things happen, but they didn't do that. They awkwardly cut to AFR, said we can't show this. Oh my God, it would be inappropriate. It would be.
Yes, it was strange when they said that. And it was also strange when they started cutting to the audience to get kind of initial reactions from Jonathan and Jeremy was out there. They had a couple other players that were like, I'm just here to support Jen. I heard some rumors and it's bad. And Dark Lord Palmer even says, the tone tonight is off. They're even admitting that what they're about to do is going to be terrible.
Be insensitive. It would be harsh. It would be cruel. I'm like, okay, fuck, what happened? Jesus Christ. They bring out Jen. They bring out Devin. First of all, they bring out Jen. They bring out Marcus, and that was already kind of weird. That was an unnecessary.
Unnecessary, and went on for way too long. They both said nothing. They both said we have love for you, and I respect. Thank you.
Went on way too long is a good point to make. This was a 3-hour, or at least broadcast 3 hours. So that means the actual program was like 2 hours, 15 minutes, roughly 45 minutes of commercials. They had to fill it. So they had to have Marcus come out and do his long thing by himself and then have their conversation. There was a lot of filler for sure in these 3 hours.
Jesse interrupted Marcus because he was rambling. Did you notice that? He was like, sorry to interrupt, but like, next.
But also, like,
Exactly. He was rambling to fill time. It like the decision to air the proposal when they did was massive mistake. All the rest of it was pretty poorly produced too. It was just, I think, probably one of the worst finales in terms of producing the decisions and who's saying what and how they're rambling and all the different filler. They had at the end of some of the segments, they would have like a 10 to 15 second just shot of like Devin backstage waiting to come out in the next segment. And you're just like, okay, I get it. He's there, because they didn't have enough to fill 3 hours. They probably did. They just didn't cut in the footage. It wasn't produced in a very smart way, in my opinion.
we didn't need that.
No.
We did
Yeah.
not need
No.
to see 20 minutes of that conversation. Like, I am so happy that they are on a great page. I don't ever want to see people, animosity between anyone. So, like, love that. But we did not need to sit there and listen to them talk for 20 minutes.
No, it was about nothing. Both saying how they respected one another. Clearly, there's an awkwardness. Jen seemed uncomfortable talking to Marcus as if she just wanted to say whatever she needed to say to be nice and then move on.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that. yeah.
Okay, we've got it. We've got to get to Devin. What the fuck? What? What? What?
I don't know. Why first of all,
No
we
one
don't-
asked.
Well, for timelines too, we interviewed her on July 31st. So they said that this happened in July, and we were the last day of July. She did our interview knowing that this was all going on.
Oh my
Just for
God.
context.
Aw.
Interesting.
And that is, I mean, really, it paints a very great picture of the pressure that is put on the lead and what you're required to do as a lead. Much of what you do as a lead is just straight acting. From night one, when you know who your finalists already are and that there are, 28 other guys that you're just going to have to kick off in some kind of order, but still keep acting like you like them and like there may be a potential for a relationship. That's the initial acting that all leads have to do. Then it's this. During the watch back, you have to act like you don't know the outcome of what happened in the season, especially in a case like this where the outcome was disaster. She's going on Viall Files and whatever other podcasts and other promotions that the network requires her to do, and she has to pretend that it didn't happen. That is acting. It is brutal.
Yeah.
That makes me hurt for her.
I feel so bad for
But
her.
why did no one ask, why did you fall out of love? Why did things switch so quickly? No one asked
Why
that.
did you break up?
And what pisses me off about AFR is they make the couple have this like talk or whatever, if it's with like her and Marcus or her and the person she didn't choose or whatever. And they always have this talk of like, they're like speaking in code. It's like they know something that happened in the relationship that none of us know because they're making them say this in front of cameras and live. And so they're like, I think that thing that we talked about, we weren't gonna do that. And you're like, what the fuck?
This is an interesting point that Natalie Joy brings up here because we're seeing it in Love is Blind as well. These agreements that we won't say this on camera or we won't do this on camera. This is a conversation we have to have in private. And she even said it. Or Devin maybe did. I forget who said it after the final rose, but they did say something that was like, we agreed we weren't going to do this on camera. And so that kind of becomes a part of this as well. Whereas in seasons past, you had like with Becca Kufrin and Ari Lyondike, when he broke up with her after proposing to her so that he could notch down to his now wife, his second choice for wife, Lauren Lyondike, they shot it all. They brought a camera crew. They tracked him around the house that they had her put up in, and he was just stalking her, and she's like, please leave. And he's just waiting at the door. It was brutal to watch. But what happens after the show is shot and they are doing these happy couple weekends, they do have opportunities to start making strategy together about what they will or won't say after the final rose. And here we're getting a little bit of that.
What are they even saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so no one asked Devin, like, why the fuck did you, like, what happened?
Which is surprising because I heard that even Jenn doesn't know. I heard that like he literally reached out to Jenn before a happy couple weekend and was like, we need to talk. And obviously when you say that to someone in that type of situation, you're like, we need to talk. And then, he was like, maybe we should talk during our happy couple weekend. And then I heard that, she was like, well, let's talk now. And then he was like, we should break up. I heard that he said things like, yeah, I'm not in love with you anymore. I don't feel the same way. I heard it was less than a 15-minute conversation.
That's kind of what she said on the show.
That's what she
And
said,
did
yeah.
you also kind of feel like Devin was like surprised by the reaction that he got? Because I kind of felt like that. Like I felt like he was like genuinely shocked when everybody would be supporting Jenn when she would just like shut him down and be like, no, you didn't show up. You ghosted me, like all of these things. And he's like, but look, like I'm just trying to, and we talked about this and like, how I feel about you. And it's like, no.
Did you hear before they went to commercial break and he was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
bizarre.
It was shocking.
But it seems like, we still don't know why they broke up.
Mm-mm.
And I don't know that we ever will. My thought on it is he came in to win a game and he won the game. And he's one of the greatest players that has ever played this game. Again, post-game, disastrous. He should have at the very least waited till after the final rose and then, done the breakup the next day perhaps. He just did it in a bad way, just a completely stupid way. But in the game, from limo exit to final rose ceremony, he was a perfect player.
She was asking on the stage.
And
like
he
being
went
humiliated.
clubbing with Jeremy, and that pissed her off.
But that was like
after
a
the
work
breakup.
trip, and then he followed Maria the day after.
That
They
was
broke it
all
off.
nuts, but to me, that wasn't really even, that was nuts and crazy. And it's certainly like
Insensitive to the breakup, like
Yeah,
she
for
said.
sure.
that's not the main reason. I want to know why he decided to break up with her. Because listen, they're not the first couple. If they had problems or if they got out of the bubble and they thought, oh my God, like who did I get engaged to or whatever, that's pretty normal, right? Like a lot of couples show up to AFR in really bad shape, put on a happy face, get through it. And the big question
Remember Juan Pablo and Nikki, I forget her last name. God, that was brutal.
It's like, really, Devin? Like, what were you trying to do? Keep it real? Like, be your most authentic self? Like, you couldn't just like muscle through it, get to AFR, put on a brave face, wait a couple weeks or a month,
Work on the relationship,
Try to
see if
put-
there's
put your best effort forward. If it doesn't work out, you post it Instagram story, something vague or whatever. But like the way you went about it, Devin, is you embarrassed Jenn unnecessarily on live national television, and you put in her a spot that no other Bachelorette has ever been in or would want to be in. And then the show doubles down by basically like, just unnecessarily being cruel. It made no sense.
It's also such a wild switch up.
I agree. I totally agree. And he played such a perfect season all the way to the after the final rose. But I think what he didn't take into account is that the after the final rose is kind of it's your last moment, in the game. You are accountable for that. The men tell all, the after the final rose, you will have to come back to the show after it is done shooting and everyone has watched it pretty much, and you will be required to do some more performing. And he just didn't set himself up well to hit that performance, obviously. I mean, it was disaster.
Up from Devin. And like Jenn said, the entire show, he's like, I will fight for you. I'll never give up on you. I love you. It's this, it's that. It's these romantic speeches. It's, oh my God. And then to just like, yeah, sorry, I fell out of love with you.
I don't think any of it was genuine. To be completely honest, like my speculation was that I'm like, maybe he didn't expect to win. I also wonder if he did have a conversation with the producer being like, you can't back out or something. But I'm like, the performance from needing personal time with Jesse, crying at the bar, crying about her not saying I love you, threatening, like, I don't even know who I am without you, all of this stuff to get there, to win, to end up being like the day after,
Do you think he showed up hoping that Jenn would send him home?
maybe. And for him to follow Maria after the fact, like, I mean, that gives to me, like, heard the announcement about Bachelor in Paradise, like, maybe I have a shot. Like, I mean, like, the idea that he would even go about moving that way, knowing that he won, like, you were never into Jenn to begin with. Like, I'm sorry. Like, that.
But virtually no one was. And this goes back to the producers. They initially wanted it to be Daisy. Daisy's dating a billionaire. That ain't going to happen. Then they wanted it to be Maria. She shot for a couple days. She was the Bachelorette for a couple of days. Whatever happened there, happened there. Only a handful of people will know the truth there. Maria and the producers, basically. She's out. But that whole season was cast for Maria. So they are casting players who, Devin, for example, let's say the producers knew that he was just a player, that he didn't really give a shit about any of it, and he's hyper competitive, and he's like, I'm going to come here to win. I think that may be the case. They put him in Maria's season because they wanted to see them go head to head. That would have been fantastic. Unfortunately, it's not Maria. So now they slot Jenn in. They change no casting whatsoever, and they just throw her to the wolves. I don't think any of these guys were there for her specifically. Some of them might have been like, oh yeah, she actually is pretty cool. I do have some feelings for her or whatever. But I don't think any of these guys were there for her initially, and that is poor producing. They should have retooled the entire season for her, especially for her because she's the first Asian Bachelorette. You have to have her back. You have to support her. And they just did not do that.
There was nothing genuine about any of his actions or even how he tried to defend himself. There was no defense.
It is crazy how he went about it. If
Right.
nothing else, it's just stupid.
Disingenuous.
No, but not even disingenuous, just dumb. Like, what was the move?
Everybody's disingenuous. There's like this thing that's happening with all of this where it's like, this guy's a piece of shit. He lied to her. The whole show is lies. Everybody's lying to everybody. Like I said, Jenn lies to almost all of these players for the whole season, saying that she's interested and, oh, I can really feel, my feelings are building with you, and let's go on this one-on-one day and whatever. That's the job of a lead. That's the show. The show is a lie. They all lie. Like, being disingenuous, I don't think really is an accurate knock against any of these players, because that is what the show is. I agree with what Nick Viall's saying. He was stupid in the way he did it in the end.
Oh,
We all forgive a breakup. Everybody breaks up in Bachelor Nation. Everybody, statistically speaking. There's very few couples that actually last. It's the way he did it.
Yeah.
I mean, he made a point. It's just like, at AFR, it's like everything he did made it look worse on himself.
Right.
I don't know if that was his point, but like his point was he wasn't showing up for like clout, or I don't know what it was, but he made no sense the whole time. I don't even understand it. Like, not even does like save face or just like, why go about it
Him
this
also
way?
saying like, yes, she's like, for 2 months you had 1 foot out of the door and like you didn't tell me. He's like, I was late to telling you.
Yeah.
Also,
Late?
keep it
I'm glad you brought that up. That was one of the worst things he could have said. And even the whole audience was like, oh, like groaning. He's kind of laughing at it. I do think Devin sees reality TV as a game and it's kind of frivolous and whatever. And ultimately it is. Like, you have to keep in mind too, Devin, who was the winner, spent a grand total of maybe 20 or so hours with her, period, across the whole show. And I know they present it as like, oh, it's this thing that takes place over 2 months and oh, blah, blah, blah. But they don't spend that much time with each other. So it's, you know, people get really mad about this show and dating shows generally, I guess, when the relationships go sour or somebody does something bad to another one or this or that. But like, you have to keep in mind, this is pro wrestling for the most part.
in mind
Like
when
you're
they,
late to like fucking lunch? Like, no, bitch. What?
Yes.
just the filming, like Bachelor typically starts filming end of September, usually wraps filming right before Thanksgiving. Then they basically go home, wrap up, go back to your family. So from end of Thanksgiving, end of November till January, nothing's happening. You kind of hide your relationship. So that's like 6 weeks before it even starts airing. And then you have the whole season of it airing. Bachelorette, much shorter turnaround time. So basically, as soon as he got out of the bubble, he was basically finding a way to get out of the relationship. I mean, they were together for less than a couple months.
There's like the secret homes, right, that you can live in together.
So every like once or twice a month, they do like a happy couple weekend.
That's what it is. Okay.
Where you spend like 3 or 4 nights and like,
I like secret homes though instead of happy couple. Secret homes is it's a good terminology.
you know, they usually rent you a pretty nice house in LA. I mean, it's still like you're still stuck there. You're kind of in prison. You can't go anywhere. So it's still, you still feel cooped up. But yeah, those are your quote unquote happy couple weekends.
Oof. But even then, he was also defensive. Like when he was like, "Am I not allowed to have a life? Or am I not allowed to like do?" And I was just like,
Crazy.
"Honey, you got
missing it.
15 minutes. Yes, you were missing the mark entirely." And again,
I agree with that 100%. The only thing he could do is go out there with tail between legs, apologize. When he tried to be like, "Can I not live a life?" It was like, "No, dude, not right now. You can't."
he's made it to the point after watching him, I was like, I don't want to see you on my TV ever again.
It's as if the only explanation it feels like
And you won't, because there's no way he's going to be on Paradise. The way he handled this just kind of ruined his shot, I think, at a reality TV career, unless he goes on like a House of Villains or something, which I don't even know if that show's going to be around.
you can come up with is that like they casted a guy who is just like in his late, how old's Devin? I don't know.
To late 20s, I believe.
And you would normally think that this is a guy maybe like with a real job and a real life and friends, but like it comes across as that like he's been like living in sweatpants like in his mom's basement, somehow find his way onto the Bachelorette, decided he'd go fucking do it. He fucked around and found out, accidentally won, and then just wanted
Accidentally won? No. Won against all odds. He had villain edits coming at him. He had multiple players trying to engage him in rivalries and tattles. Aaron Erb, Thomas, and God, there was somebody else in there. Even Sam McKinney. They were going head. There was that one shot where they were both back at the house and everybody else was out on a group date where they're face to face sitting on the couches. They tried to make this guy a villain. They tried to sink him at every turn, and he just dodged everything. Played everything perfectly. Perfect hometown, perfect meeting of the family, all the perfect one-on-ones, all the perfect group date after parties. It wasn't by accident that he won this game. Devin is one of the most skilled players that has ever entered this game, period. And, you know, everyone can feel how they feel about what he did after the show and cast moralistic judgments and stuff. But between the lines, this guy is one of the best players of all time, period. I don't agree with how he ended it. And obviously he's super maligned and people hate him now. Like Nick Viall's producer said right there, I don't ever want to see him on my TV screen again. That's a strong feeling about a reality star.
to like figure out a way to get out of it as soon as possible, like completely not understanding the scope of what he signed up for. He just kind of was just like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. He kind of implied after that he was like pressured into it.
Pressured into what though?
That's the thing. Like it's a rewind to everything he said, like Sarah said. Contradictory.
Is he blaming producers for pressuring him into an engagement?
That's what I would have done. Had I been Devin in that situation, I would have blamed producers in the show for pressuring him into an engagement. And I also would have probably, at that point, you have nothing to lose by doing just complete open lies. I would have said something on live TV like, look, Jenn, the producers called me and said if I dumped you, they'd make me the next Bachelor. Then see how they handle that.
Process, maybe.
Breaking news. Devin posted on his stories that is now since been deleted. He posted screenshots of him and Jenn's conversation.
What?
Yeah.
Send.
Screenshots? You fuck.
I don't know if they're going to get into it, but basically the things he posted essentially say, or they have language in them from Jenn that basically said she wanted a breakup. She was the one who was talking about a breakup. It looks highly redacted to me, and it is like, whatever. You say things in the heat of the moment. He's trying to paint it like it was her idea or like he's not the bad guy in this situation. I don't think it worked, and I think that's why he deleted it. I think it was a bad play on his part. We have seen receipts being posted that have gotten some players out of trouble before. I'm, of course, talking about Blake Horstman, one of the best receipts players of all time.
Fucking messy piece of shit.
You know.
I'll be honest. I'd love to hear from Devin.
So would I. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
I want to hear from Jenn.
Same.
Part 2.
So what does it say?
She said, so then why did you want to talk to me in person today in the first place? And he said, I wanted to tell you all of this in person because you deserved more than a phone call. I didn't spring this on you, Jenn. I wanted to talk about this in person today and you forced it out of me. Of course, this isn't the way I wanted to do
So what
things.
happened is again, he called up Jenn and said, we need to talk, scared the shit out of her, said we should talk about this at Happy Couples. And then he is now accusing Jenn of forcing it out of him because she was like, well,
No,
just
what the
fucking
fuck,
tell me now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I don't want to sit there and wait on
With
a plane
anxiety.
ride and have anxiety. Just shut the fuck up and then spring it on her when you're in person if you want to talk about it in person.
Yeah. And
Like,
who goes on a trip like being like, yes, can't wait for doomsday? What could you
Literally.
possibly have to talk to me about?
Yeah, so no, sorry, Devin. Jenn didn't force you.
So then she said, but the way you said it last night made it seem like you already made your mind up, not that you wanted to have a conversation about it. He said, just last week, Friday, you said we should break up. You've said that before. I really took that to heart because I've been having doubts about our whole relationship. And I'm not happy right now when I know you aren't either. I'm always falling short of your expectations. I have already expressed my own doubts. Last Happy Couple, I was very honest about where my heart stood. I don't know what else to say, Jenn. You don't deserve this, and I don't think I can be what you deserve, is what I think what he meant. And then she said, I know that I said I wanted to break up and I was emotionally charged when I said that and obviously didn't go through with that because things can, and then it cuts off.
It sounds like he was like, this sucks. I suck.
Right. Where it cuts off, because things can, and then it cuts off. Like, he just deleted the rest of that conversation, basically, where I think she probably came out looking way better than him.
This relationship sucks. Everything about it. I'm not happy. You're not happy. And she's like, well, maybe we should just break up.
Yeah.
Like, that's what that sounds like.
He
to me.
absolutely
Me
posted that.
too.
This is a guess, but I say this with confidence, is that the internet has been up in his DMs and
Mhm.
comments saying, I
For
can't
sure.
believe you called her.
Yeah.
How insensitive.
The internet has been in his DM saying, I can't believe you called her. The internet has been in his DM saying, you should die. He is getting death threats 100%. If Piper James and Brenna Marais were getting death threats, this dude is for sure receiving some of the worst, meanest things that could ever be told to a person. And I would just say to anyone watching this, if you ever feel the need to say something negative to somebody in Bachelor through a DM, just do not do it. You don't know these people at all. You watch them on a TV show. They are characters like pro wrestlers. And there's no benefit in sending a nasty message to them, be it a death threat or anything even under that. If you like players, if you want to show them support, definitely send them your nicest messages about how much you like what they did in the season, or how much you feel sorry for something bad that happened to them. That's all fine. But don't send negative messages to any of these players. It does not help the culture of the fandom of this show, which we want to be, I think, at least as a part of it. I want the culture of our fandom of Bachelor Nation to be like a nice, welcoming place. But it, especially in recent years, has not been.
Sensitive that you called her, and he posted that thinking that this was going to explain that he didn't call her or didn't want to do it over the phone, and then and he's now blaming Jenn for how it all went down.
Because you can see that one part is like a broken piece.
Yeah, he's like
of the
cropping and
message.
cutting and like,
And then
Please.
shows the part where it's like she knew, like, it's giving Clinton Kane. It's giving the like, I'm going to refute the tiniest detail. She actually did know because I said one word. And it's like, regardless, okay, exactly. You're trying to paint it in a way that she was like the one that broke up with you first and made you have all of these doubts where it's like, no, you knew how you were feeling, but you want this to validate it so people will lay off of you. But like what you did was humiliating.
I think that the show really screwed over Jenn. I mean, one of the most unfortunate Bachelorette or lead experiences. First of all, none of the people were casted for Jenn.
Mm-hmm.
She was set up for failure. They didn't focus on Jenn. They didn't tell Jenn's story during the season. It was clearly not something they planned for. She was the first Asian Bachelorette, and they tried to get credit for making her the first Asian Bachelorette, which they never planned on doing in the first place. But then they tried to get credit for that, the show. Didn't do anything to prop her up, promote her all that well. It seemed like it was like a low budget for promoting her. Like her show art was very different than other Bachelorettes before her.
I don't know if I agree with that exactly. Her show art was great, I thought. They had her riding the claw mechanism in like a claw machine. She's in control. I actually liked the promo quite a bit. But I do agree with him that they didn't do a good job supporting her and that her choice to be the first Asian Bachelorette wasn't a first choice. It was something they did as a third choice. And then, like I was saying earlier, he's correct. They did not cast for her.
Then you have this like cast of terrible men.
Yes.
Terrible. Also, the Marcus of it was kind of weird.
Yep.
The guy's a war veteran. You guys talked about and being in combat for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
That shit will fuck you up. I don't know what's going on in Marcus's life. He seems troubled, like clearly, and he served our country. It just felt also really icky. I also don't blame Jenn for this. This is like the show not being able to get away from their playbook. Their playbook being is
He's 100% correct right there.
before we send someone home, that person has to say, I'm falling in love or I'm in love with you, so that the lead can say something like, well, now that I realize it, where your feelings are, I now that know my feelings are changed. So it's the finale. Here you have Marcus. Jenn's like, I'm in love with both of you. Marcus is like, I can't open up. He's clearly struggling emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole first half of the finale was about trying to convince Marcus to say, I love you to Jenn. Her brother like challenged him. Her mom challenged him. Jenn challenged him. Jenn shows up.
Jesse Palmer fucking challenged him. Jesse Palmer came out and said, dude, you have to play the Love Level 4 now or you're going to get sent home. But I agree with what Viall's saying here. It is them being stuck in their playbook, which at this point was solidified whenever season 13 of The Bachelor, Jason Mesnick's season was. That's when the modern game had all of its pieces. First impression roses, one-on-one roses, group date roses, all the limo exits, the 2-hour finale, or actually the final limo exit came in season 16, Ben Flanick, when Lindsay Cox rode in on a horse. That was the first Grandy. But what he's saying is correct in terms of the formatting of the show. This is how we have to cut it. We need these scenes. We need these scenes. And good producers of reality television, I think, can roll with the punches. They can say, this situation is something new. We've never seen this, or this player is saying this, or has these needs, or whatever the case may be, and roll with it and make the season a little different. Tailor it to the people instead of having to force the people to kind of conform to the format that you've had in place for the past 15 years. And you saw it on Love is Blind UK as well. There were 11 couples on that first season that got engaged. They chose to follow 6 because that's the format. We can't do any more than 6. What if they had followed all 11? That would have been a groundbreaking season of TV had they produced that instead of just, again, adhering to that playbook. He's 100% correct here.
To Marcus's hotel room, clearly to break up with him, right? But they paint it as like she needs to hear him say, I love you. She once again talks about like, I need him to say, I love you. Finally, they rip it out of him. It's just like, say you love her, say you love her. It's like the pressure they put on this guy to go to a place that clearly he wasn't comfortable going. And then finally, it seems like to their surprise, he actually says, Jenn, I do love you. She literally had to get up, leave the room, obviously go talk to the whatever producer told her like, hey, we're going to send him home because he's not going to be able to open up. But then he surprisingly does that. And then they put Jenn in another shitty position because now she just looks like she forced it out of him and then very, very cruelly sent him home right after because it was too late? It didn't make any fucking sense. But because this show is so used to like going by their playbook and how they do things, there just seems to be a lot less creativity with the people running this show than there used to be. And I
100% agree. My 2 cents, you should get somebody from scripted television to come show run this show. Somebody who has done a good I mean, you almost want like a Game of Thrones producer or something, somebody who's done a good hour-long drama and understands the narrative a little. Nobody who worked on the last season of Game of Thrones, though.
I think when they can't adapt as well as they used to, and now they just do things because they planned on doing it, and it comes across as really insensitive or just boring at times. The whole Marcus ending was stupid, and it felt almost cruel.
And it really is the difference between like a documentary filmmaker and somebody who is just like, this is what we need to do. And this, I mean, look, when these producers first cast a show, they literally have pictures of the players and they write on those pictures what they're going to be that season. Villain, fool, puppy dog, whatever. And then they make that happen. If a player shows up and starts behaving out of the structure of what they've already presented them as to themselves, they will eliminate that player. They're not giving us what we need, not giving us what we want. I would guess Brett Harris did that. I would guess they had him slotted for something, and then when he showed up, he wasn't going to play ball and go down that road, and so they eliminated him night one. Those early eliminations, even all the way through midseason eliminations, those are not the choice of the Bachelor or Bachelorette. The producers decide who gets kicked off in those early rounds, and it's always because those players can't be fit into the box that the producers want them to be fit in. It's either they won't go along and play in this rivalry, or they won't say this mean thing, or they won't do whatever we want them to do, so goodbye. And I think that's the wrong way to produce something, a reality show, for example, and almost specifically, because what you want to be able to do producing good reality TV is see what you've got when they get there and produce the show to maximize the potential of all the various players who could be super entertaining. You don't want to try to force players into doing things that are outside of their nature. And that is what they're doing on Bachelor for sure.
Rule to a guy who, for whatever reason, he's served our country. He's been in literal combat, clearly emotionally not, healthy. And it just felt weird to force this guy to go to a place he clearly wasn't able to go to.
To just send him home.
Just to send him home, and then it was and then the whole proposal, it's 2024. Whatever. You want to propose to me? Natalie, great. It's just like, what? I don't understand. Well, is that a thing? Does anyone care?
Yes, I care. And I think most of Bachelor Nation does, because Bachelor is, of all the dating shows that are currently on TV, the popular ones, it's the most, in quotes, traditional in terms of how it represents gender roles and stereotypes and all that stuff. So to see a woman propose to a man for the first time in a franchise that's been on the air for 22 years now is massive in terms of what it means for this game specifically. She has opened a door now. I don't know if other players will potentially do this in the future. I know Becca Kufrin proposed to Thomas Jacobs, but it was all off camera. That wasn't in part of a show. They met on Bachelor in Paradise, but in real life, she proposed to him. But this is the first time we've seen it on camera as the finale of a hugely important season. I think it matters a lot. And for me, it was the most important play of the season for sure, because it forces Bachelor to go into this more contemporary area now. I don't know. I just disagree with him on this. I do care. I cared a lot about seeing that. I thought it was fantastic.
Was that like a big moment for anyone that
Yes.
Jenn proposed?
I think it was empowering given like the Asian context of it, because like women don't do that and very often in culture. My sister did it and it was like a big deal.
But I think like, yes, he's correct, but it goes beyond that too. It's in the culture of Bachelor. We have never seen that happen in the show before. 22 years.
But she did it.
Okay. But like, I guess in
Yeah.
any culture, it's not like a thing.
It's not a tradition.
No, but
Yeah.
does anyone care? But like,
Yes.
who is it empowering for?
Herself, I can see
Yeah.
that part.
Was it Becca Kufrin?
To Thomas, maybe?
I think that sounds.
Yes. Becca Kufrin did it.
I mean,
to
it's like a
Thomas.
cute moment. Like even
It's
when they
But not in the show. They're misunderstanding something. Bachelor is a ceremony. If nothing else, it's almost like the Olympics. That's how we treated it Game of Roses anyway. And that final rose ceremony is kind of like it's the closing ceremony of the Olympics. And to see a bachelorette propose to her ring winner during it is staggering. It is something that I thought would never be seen. And what Nick Viall was saying earlier is true and important in this. The producers are part of that. Even if it's Jen's idea, she's like, they never said anything to her, and she's like, I want to propose to him. She has to have a conversation with the producers. They have to okay it and decide that, yes, that's what we're doing this season, and then go get her the little clamshell or whatever and put the ring in it. If it was a producer's idea and they convinced Jenn to do it, that's almost better in some ways, because it shows that the producers were forward thinking. They were like, we're going to, break some things here a little bit. We're going to rewrite how this show goes and show that our Bachelorette can kind of do whatever she wants. I think it was a massively important moment, especially for the culture of the show.
Aired it. It was like, he was like, haha, cool. And then he's like, I'm going to propose to. Like, it wasn't that big of a moment as the show felt like it was. We'll try to make it out to be.
But it felt like it wasn't that big of a moment because they had already invalidated it by showing the arguments in the hot seat with Devin and Jenn. Had that not been the case, it would have been a massive moment. But because we saw all the arguments and then we saw Jesse Palmer basically coerce her to say, oh, I guess I don't have a choice. Let's watch it. Now everything we're watching is meaningless. All the words that Devin is saying, meaningless. Her being happy, meaningless. They undercut the importance of that moment in the decision to air the proposal after the hot seat.
Well, they cared more about that than about Jenn.
But that's what I'm saying. They sold it as like some groundbreaking.
I'll agree with you because Jesse Palmer said that. Like,
It was groundbreaking.
it felt icky and weird at the time because Jenn's obviously like hysterically bawling, and then Jesse said something like, just so you know, like that proposal was beautiful and no one can take that away from you. And it's like, first of all,
The producers did take it away from her, though.
like a proposal, most people only want to go through that once. So it's like there's this like very epic moment. She did something very brave, and it's like, for that to be the reaction, I don't think it was correct in comforting her, being like, no one can take that away from you. It's like, yeah, we all saw it, and I think she would want someone to take that away from her.
What is crazy is that the show acted like they were breaking some sort of a glass ceiling.
Yeah.
They were, though. That's what it's wild to me that he doesn't get this, especially having been a Bachelor and a 2 times runner-up and an end-run Paradise player. And he's talking, again, about like they can't get away from their playbook. This is them getting away from their playbook in a gigantic way. It really was, in my opinion, very groundbreaking. And I just don't know why he doesn't see it. Maybe it's because of the presentation. And I do agree with them. The way it was presented took all the steam out of it. It became almost meaningless, like almost an afterthought to the main course, which was, let's make Jenn have a nervous breakdown and sob uncontrollably for 20 minutes, then play this thing and make her sob some more for 20 minutes.
And it was
like,
just,
first of all, it's been done before.
it was tone deaf.
The show should be
It's never been done before in Bachelor. What is he talking about?
embarrassed. Devin should be embarrassed. That was a shit show. I hope Jenn can heal from this because Jesus Christ, that was awful.
Yeah.
What
All
if I
want,
told you that whoever's decision it was thought it would be empowering for Jenn?
it's clear they just missed
They-
the mark.
They definitely
Sure,
did.
they had intentions of it being empowering, and maybe it would have been empowering if they wouldn't have made her sit there sobbing watching it.
That's exactly correct. And if you're a good producer, you see her reaction to the Devin Strader hot seat, and then you decide, hey, we can't play that. We cannot play that. And you put it out on the internet or something. You're going to get flack for that too, but at least you're not putting her head in a box, making her sob while watching this, and we're all watching her sobbing while she's watching it. It was just a terrible decision top to bottom.
Next to the man who just fucking left her.
Yes.
This was my part too, because it's like they forced her to watch it and she's crying, like sobbing, and then Jesse's like, and you're like the first Asian American Bachelorette. And I'm like, this is not,
It's not the time.
like you humiliated her. For me as like an Asian American watcher, like you gave me this representation, but then made her look like,
Yeah.
you made her cry.
And this is what they do. Despite the LA Times article that they said everything to the contrary, this is what they do. Go back and watch Matt James's season. Go back and watch Rachel Lindsay's season 13 of The Bachelorette. They cast a guy on that season named Lee Garrett who had very easy to find, openly racist tweets. And she has maintained on several podcasts, many people maintain, that they cast him specifically on that season so that they could have a racism narrative in her season, the first Black Bachelorette. And I think that those things, you can just kind of feel it still in the show. Despite everything they said in the LA Times article, I think there is still that undercurrent. I mean, we all saw what happened in the After the Final Rose. It's there. What this guy is saying is true too.
Yeah.
And put her in a
Yeah,
bad
no,
light. So I'm like, this is
They looked
tone
like they
deaf.
had fun torturing her.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
Jesse's like whispering as if like that makes it more sensitive. And it's just like, Jenn, are you okay? You're strong. It's like, what the fuck are you
no,
saying?
yeah.
He's a Dark Lord. He has to convey that he cares. Jenn, are you all right? Can we please play the footage? He transcended into pure evil Dark Lord at that after the final rose. I personally couldn't be happier about it.
Like, I'm humiliated.
It's like in many ways a return to the Bachelor of old. And I know we want them to turn the corner. I know they're trying to, supposedly. But there is something entertaining about them just not being able to get out of the way. Like, this is what the show is. We torture people.
Why couldn't you play this clip before I came out here, and then I could have this conversation?
That's
with
what's so
Devin?
bizarre about
Yeah.
it, because
Yes.
knowing how they make this show, it was the most unnecessary thing. They
Right.
didn't have to do it. They made a choice, and they
Yeah.
chose to do it this way. And they've never done it this way before. And then the first time they've done it in a way where they, for the first, 20 minutes, were telling us how
Yeah.
inappropriate it would be to show the video. And then they wait for her to come out with Devin.
Right.
I agree 100%. Just a basic kind of rule of television or any media production. You don't ever want someone in your show, a host, a character, or whatever, to say, this show is bad. That's essentially what they did for the first half of this. Tonight is going to be a very hard night. The vibes are weird. Everything's off. And you're just building us up with anticipation for something terrible. They did this on The GOAT on Amazon as well. The first 7 seconds of the pilot had Daniel Tosh, the host of that show, coming out and saying that he believes reality TV is what he likes to call documentaries for stupid people, essentially insulting the entire audience. Anyone watching the show, which is a reality show, he calls them stupid, and then proceeds for that entire season to shit on reality TV, reality stars, the show itself. You don't ever want that in a show. You want everybody to be positive about what you're about to see. This is the greatest entertainment. You're going to have a great time tonight. That's not what we got.
It just makes no fucking sense. All I want is there to be some sort of leaked people, whatever, that's like Jenn and Jonathan are on a date. That's all I want.
Yes.
Yes.
And they could have had that. We talked about this in our recap. They could have had, Devin, that whole thing. What they should have done is played proposal. Then they play the Devin hot seat. They get done with their thing. And then they cut out to Jonathan saying like, hey, Jenn, I don't know what you got on your plate, but if you want to go out for a drink sometime, I'd love to do it. They did that in Hannah Brown's season with Tyler Cameron, and it worked beautifully. Still to this day, I think there are people who want to see them together, even though she's with a guy.
We need that.
Please rekindle.
It was such a,
after.
like, but even Jonathan, like, why
I saw a tweet.
why wasn't he a part of AFR? Like, why did they
Sitting in the crowd, him and
Yeah, I know,
Jeremy.
but-
He was there to say that he was going to paradise.
I
Literally.
guess.
I saw-
And Jeremy was there to
Take a stray.
take we're clubbing with Jeremy. Pan to Jeremy. He's like,
Fuck, I'm single. I'm allowed.
And you know what that was, right? Jeremy's out living in New York. Devin like hits him up. Hey man, I'm in town. Jeremy's like, stop by. I'm
Out.
I'm out.
I'm outside. But also, I
and
saw,
Devin's like, video this. Hell yeah. Put this on my story for my ecstasy.
I saw a tweet that said nobody's fumbled a bag harder since Tyler Cameron. They were talking about
Why
choosing
did
Jonathan.
Tyler Cameron fumble a bag?
No, they're saying that like Jen, like it's a Bachelorette, like fumbling the bag, where it's like the last time we saw somebody fumble this bad was with Tyler Cameron because everybody wanted Jonathan.
Oh, Hannah not choosing
Oh.
Hannah not
Tyler.
choosing Tyler is the equivalent of Jen not choosing Jonathan for all of us viewers.
Gotcha.
I do want to say I think it was
Maybe.
empowering
No offense to Jonathan. He is no Tyler Cameron.
that Jen like stood her ground though against.
Yeah.
Devin.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah,
So I give her
Absolutely.
that.
eviscerate that man.
She really
she
cared
should.
about him
Yeah.
too, I hear.
I know, that's so
She
sad.
really, really liked him.
And he just bamboozled her.
I mean, wouldn't you? After all the shit he's saying, like being like, I would die for you. I would jump in front of a car. I would like do absolutely anything for you. I've never loved anyone more.
telling your mom that you would never abandon her, like, come on, knowing she's got abandonment issues.
That was a brutal play. I mean, everything between the sidelines and the end zones is like fair game, I guess, but people's families aren't reality stars. When Jen signs up to be the Bachelorette, I mean, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. When you sign up to be a player on Bachelor or Bachelorette, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. But people's families are different. They are not coming into this for clout. They are not there for Instagram followers. They are like real people thrust into a reality TV show. And to lie to those people's face in such a manner, again, I mean, I guess it's like all's fair on The Bachelor, but not that. It was like a step too far. I agree. It was poor decision making in terms of like a game time play, I think.
sick in the
and it has come back to haunt him.
It was just so bizarre. Everything about it made no sense. And we also, after all that, we got no answers.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe Devin will continue to be messy and post on his story, and we'll get a couple of answers there.
There's something else just kind of bizarre about all this. Like, it is really weird.
It could be that the producers also didn't make either of these guys answer for any of the allegations. I'm talking about Marcus and Devin, or any of their problematic posts that they liked. Devin rapping the N-word in a song semi-recently. None of that was addressed, despite, again, the producers' promises that what happened in Matt James' season would never happen again, that they will not turn a blind eye to these things, that they will hold these players accountable, and they will do better. They did not do better.
How he chose to go about this.
Do you think Bachelor people behind Bachelor will make a statement
No,
defending their actions?
absolutely not. No.
100% agree. Sweep under the rug. Golden Bachelorette is premiering in 2 weeks. Tune in to see Joan Vassos. They did that on the show. Jesse Palmer does all this damage. They play the proposal. And then as soon as they come out of it, he's like, well, Jen, nobody can take that beautiful proposal away from you. And now, Joan Vassos, come on down. We've got our Golden Bachelorette here. That's exactly how they'll treat this. They did it literally in the after the final.
They don't. They won't speak.
They've been on panels before and have spoken.
Yeah, that's like a set interview. That didn't,
No, I know how that went, but I'm curious if they would ever be like, this is why we did this.
No, I don't think, well, because the answer isn't going to make them any better. I think because the answer is they thought it was a good idea and they thought it was empowering. But the truth is they cared more about their creative choice than they cared about Jen.
Yeah.
I agree. And their, in quotes, creative choice really was they still believe, in quotes, good TV is people having nervous breakdowns and fighting. That's their primary kind of operating model, really, is to get people to have breakdowns. They still feel that, and they don't understand that is not good TV. It just isn't.
And I think that is absolutely the truth. And that being said, either way, they don't really make statements regardless.
They're just gonna push Golden Bachelorette like nobody's business.
Yep.
God, yeah. Which at
So
this
we all
point,
forget.
which at this point, it's like,
Did Kelsey's dad win?
I don't fucking know, but it makes me like not. I'm like, ugh. Like
They-
I just have this gross
Icky.
taste in my
What
mouth,
are you
and
gonna
it's like,
do
what
to
do you?
Joan?
Yeah, what are you
Yeah.
gonna do to Joan? It's like I don't trust you in the hands of my Bachelorette. You know, like
And it's weird because, like, listen, when the show does something that can come across as insensitive, I often can see their side because you're just, you have to show the drama. And sometimes you have to, it's like sometimes people say, hey, this seems like a conversation that should be held in private sometimes. And you're like, it's a TV show.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This has always been a TV show. We're going to show the show.
Yeah.
Type of thing. This is just, the choices here seem just so unnecessary.
I
Like it
agree.
didn't add any value. It didn't do anything other than like,
Not only did it not add value, it took value away from this gigantic important moment of her proposing, and it did damage to every other moment in the show from really the very beginning. As soon as Jesse Palmer starts going to the audience, to the guys, and they're like, well, something bad's going to happen. The decision to air it as they aired it was detrimental. It detracted value. It was just an unnecessary, completely terrible decision.
finally get you attention for a season that, let's be honest, didn't have much buzz or attention. And they did something that just comes across as they just didn't have to do it.
Mhm.
And honestly, them doing it made even less sense. It just confused people. So by the time they showed the ceremony, we weren't curious. We felt icky for Jen because here's this guy being icky.
Mhm.
And then they show the video and you're like, I don't even care. What is going on? It just was such a dumb, stupid choice.
Dropped the ball
Agreed.
this season. Dropped.
Well,
the
good
ball.
luck with Joan. Maybe they'll make some changes, maybe.
Doubtful.
Do you think this is a fireable offense?
Yes.
We'll see. I don't know.
It 100% is. It 100% is. And like they're saying, they're not going to make a statement. If they want to make a statement, the statement is whoever made this call or whoever they want to have fall on the sword has been let go and we got a new executive producer in. That's the statement. You don't need to say anything other than that. But I have to imagine that whoever made this decision was also involved in some of the Paradise decisions like Sally's suitcase and the truth box and all just these bad creative choices that are just plaguing The Bachelor. And I don't know if they're all coming from one person, but they feel similar to me. And if you could just eliminate that person, I think the show would fly, but
No, even the showing Joan and Kelsey's dad and like in the crowd, I was like, this is a weird choice knowing that he's on this season. Like, I don't know. It's just like,
I care less about that.
I don't know. I'm just saying to where I'm like, it just seems like a weird choice.
I think
it was a weird choice. I mean, they had no choice really, but it just felt weird to then like promote the Golden Bachelorette right after this train wreck. They're like, but forget about that. Look at this. I thought they actually promoted the Golden Bachelorette pretty well by having just Kelsey's dad's limo exit and that be the only thing. I actually like that.
Joan's gonna make a lot of friends.
Well, she says she's not doing it to get married, right? Like she's just doing this to be in a relationship.
But I think, I just think most of the time the lead doesn't fall in love with but I think is in Golden era, I think it's easier. It's less petty. I think Joan will make a lot of friends who are men. I don't think it's like because she doesn't pick, I don't know what happens, but let's assume she doesn't pick Kelsey's dad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's like weird animosity or it's awkward. I think it's just kind of whatever. They pointed at each other. I don't think that's a thing.
I just think it's a weird choice to have a contestant on your season in the crowd with you.
I think it's
just
I'm with Nick on that one. I think they're marketing it because it's like, this might just be a friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't win, or they wouldn't have him there. They wouldn't show their hand that blatantly, I don't think.
I think they're just saying we loved her dad on the show.
But the transition from Jenn,
for sure,
like Jenn wasn't even done like wiping her tears, and they're like, Joan, aren't you so excited for it? Like the way that they just drop Jenn and like move to the next one, it's just, I don't know.
They came across as they really hated Jenn.
They have to make changes. It's just disgusting at this point. Like the people at Bachelorette, you should be ashamed of yourselves.
On that note, I think we're going to wrap up this episode. Thank
you for joining me for this watching back of the Viall Files, Nick Viall and company, talking about the after the final rose and what we saw at the end of this. I agree with a lot of what Viall said here. He is right on the money that they can't get away from their playbook, no matter how much they should. And the final question that they ask there that Natalie Joy asked is like, some changes have to be made, and everybody at Bachelorette should be ashamed of themselves. I don't know if they should be ashamed, because I thought the rest of the season was actually pretty good. And Jenn did, very well in the ratings. She was winning most nights, unless she was up against like I think the RNC one night took her ratings down, and I think or maybe it was the DNC, and I think the Olympics took her ratings down. But other than that, she was winning every night, and I think she even put on some viewers in one of the weeks. I think her season is, at least at ABC, considered a success, and just this final episode has kind of blown up Bachelor Nation. Everyone is talking about this. I've gotten more DMs and text messages about this and the producers and everything else than I have about literally anything since we started doing the show roughly 5 years ago. At any rate, thanks for joining me, and we'll have more coverage out as it happens.